On the same day as Boston gets their contract negotiations done, Bryan Little re-ups with the Winnipeg Jets. 6-year, $31 million contract, so that's a $5.29 million a year cap hit. He'd been making $4.7 million, so he gets a raise of like $500,000 a year average. It's a good deal. Bryan Little spent his entire career with one organization. Of course, he was drafted by the Thrashers in 2006. His career high was with the Thrashers in 08-09. The only concern, if you're a Jets fan, is Bryan Little's health. He's missed more than 20 games in both of the last 2 seasons. But other than that, I mean, the Jets have the cap space. The Jets are not in any kind of a crunch situation, and there is a good core here. There's a lot of offense to be had in Winnipeg. If Little's healthy all of last season, maybe they have a little bit better of a result than they ended up with. The Jets were a lot closer to being a playoff team last year than a lot of people give them credit for, including myself. And by improving the goaltending, by bringing in Mason, and we all assume that Mason's going to be better than Pavlich. Than Pavlich was in Winnipeg. I don't want to get Rangers fans all in a tizzy. But Little is a good, ideally, I think, second-line guy. At times, he's been relied on for first line, and it sort of reminded me of Vancouver with both Brendan Morrison and Cliff Ronning, who at times were asked to be number one centers, and they weren't. They were able to perform very well. They were able to put up some totals, and yet you felt like they would be more comfortable being number 2 guys. As long as Little's the number 2 guy, I think he's a perfect fit. And so Winnipeg has really got their ducks in a row here. They've got him signed long-term, Scheifele signed long-term. They'll start working on Laine as soon as he's able to be worked on next summer. Like, I think, while I certainly give Kevin Cheveldayoff flack, and I really believe rightfully so for not making more decisive moves with a team that hasn't been good enough, I will say that in terms of keeping players in Winnipeg and keeping them happy, he's done very well. And that's something that is important, because the Winnipeg Jets in their first incarnation had that issue. They couldn't keep guys around long term. Players didn't want to play in Winnipeg. Now that hasn't been an issue. I haven't heard anything about players not wanting to play in Winnipeg other than the infamous Ilya Bryzgalov quote from years back. But I haven't seen it. And they have a good core, and if Mason can perform, if Little remains healthy, there's no reason they can't make the playoffs. So when I make preseason predictions, I'm well aware that they could and probably will be wrong in some cases. And Winnipeg is one of those teams that absolutely can prove me wrong. So this is a good contract. The cap hit is okay. The term might be a little long considering, as I said, his injury history. He's one of those guys that if his injury history continues to mount, if he continues to get more of them, he may end up in a Johan Franzen kind of situation where he ends up being sort of dead cap for them towards the end of his contract. But you can't project that out. And even if that happens, as I said, Winnipeg has a lot of cap space. So they're not in a bad position. And it's a good move. I've never heard anything bad said about him as a player on or off the ice. And, let's go ahead and give props to Winnipeg where they're due. The Jets got her done. Let me know what you guys think about the contract extension. Jets fans, is it too long? I know the cap hit's fine. I can't see anybody being mad about the cap hit. But is it 1 year too long? 2 years too long? Do you worry about his injury history? Let me know. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. And thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.